Sergeant Arms, please have the comrades rise to salute the flag.
Yes, sir, Comrade Commander-in-Chief, sir. Comrades, all rise. Comrades, facing the flag of our nation, please join me for an opening salute to our colors. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, this meeting has reconvened officially. Something like that.
I will now request that Betty Gribb give us the initial credentials report.
Good afternoon, Commander-in-Chief and council members and delegates. The opening credential report for the 124th National Convention at the close of business 4 p.m. yesterday, July 22nd, 2023. Total delegates registering their credentials are 7,922. Department commanders, 44. Total past Commander-in-Chief, 10. Total national officers, 48. Grand total delegates, 8,024. But the total in attendance and signing in is 1,701. That's my report, sir.
Thank you, Betty. I will now call upon our chairman, John E. Hamilton, for the committee convention rules.
Thank you, Commander-in-Chief. The Committee and Convention rules met Sunday, July 23rd, 2023. I'd like to thank the members and the staff for their assistance, Quentin and Zach. Your Committee on Convention rules again met Sunday, July 23rd, 2023, and agreed on the following recommendations, which are respectfully submitted for your consideration. That in accordance with the conjunction with the national bylaws and the manual procedure, and with the exception noted here, the current edition of the Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, shall be recognized as parliamentary authority for this convention. 2, that when a registered delegate desires to make a motion or address the convention, the delegate shall rise, address the chair as Comrade Commander-in-Chief, and after being recognized, shall state their name, post number, and department before proceeding. 3, a registered delegate shall be permitted to speak but twice on any one subject or any pending resolution for a period not to exceed 5 minutes each, except by consent of 2/3 of the voting strength of the convention present and voting, provided that the chairman of the convention committees may speak as frequently as necessary in conjunction with reports of their committees. In the event of a controversy, the presiding officer shall not entertain any motion which will curtail further debate without affording the maker of the motion or a member of the delegation presenting the resolution an opportunity to speak for 5 minutes of final rebuttal. 4, all resolutions offered by individual registered delegates must bear the endorsement of the department commander or, if absent, the department adjutant. All resolutions must be submitted to the office of the Adjutant General for numbering and referral to committee no later than 12 p.m. Wednesday, July 26, 2023, and must be accompanied by a written explanation as to why the resolution was not presented to the Department Convention for consideration. 5, all resolutions offered on the floor at the convention will initially be in writing and shall automatically and without reading be referred to the Adjutant General for assignment to the proper committee. 6, committee chairman, in reporting on resolutions referred to their committee, shall first read the number of those resolutions on which favorable action is recommended. Specific resolutions may be set aside for individual action at the request of any delegate, the others being voted upon collectively. After action has been taken on all such resolutions, the chairman shall read the number and the title of those resolutions which committee has disapproved. A resolution disapproved by the committee shall be automatically rejected unless a motion is made and seconded that it be approved, in which case it shall be brought up for debate on the convention action. 7, this convention will not consider any resolution dealing with the expenditure or appropriation of organizational funds. 8, the convention will not consider any resolution endorsing legislation sponsored by any other veterans organization or requesting us to join with any other organization in sponsoring legislation not expressly proposed by the members of the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. 9, all delegates to this convention may speak and debate, make motions, and vote during convention proceeding. Delegates. Delegates to this convention may speak and debate, make motions, and vote during convention proceedings. 10, delegates shall vote individually or on any item of business coming before the convention and cannot be required to vote as a block with others from their delegation. 11, voting strength shall be determined by those delegates registered as of the close of the credentials registration booth the previous day and as required to the National Convention. The department commanders will receive, prior to the beginning of each business session, a list of posts that have properly registered delegates. Only delegates representing those posts listed on the report will be accorded voting privileges. 12, on roll calls, the department commander of each delegation shall poll their delegations, registered delegates on the floor, and shall announce the vote of their delegation. 13, registered delegates of a delegation may arrive at a vote in any manner, but must announce it in terms of full units and not in terms of fractional parts of a vote. 14, reconsideration of a motion or resolution upon which final disposition has been made shall not be allowed after the meeting at which it was acted on has been recessed, unless the body is notified of such contemplated action prior to the close of that meeting. 15, when the report of a department commander of the delegation is not acceptable to all the registered delegates of the delegation and a poll of the department registered delegates is demanded by 3 registered delegates of said department, the adjutant general shall poll the registered delegates without discussion or question. 16, in accordance with the section of 621 of the national bylaws, voting shall be by acclamation as defined within Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised excerpt, except a roll call may be demanded by 10 registered delegates representing posts in 10 separate departments or by order of the commander-in-chief. 17, nominating speeches for the national officers shall be limited to 5 minutes each. The time allocated to encompass all seconding speeches shall be limited to 4 minutes total. Nomination and election of national officers will be held according to the Congressional Charter, bylaws, and Section 617 of the National Manual of Procedure. 18, registered delegates and persons recognized by the chair shall be entitled to a respectful hearing, and the chair shall have the authority to clear the gallery or the floor or have the sergeant-at-arms escort from the floor any person or persons who may create any disturbance which interferes with the orderly procedure of the convention. The commander-in-chief, the commander-in-chief, as may be necessary and appropriate to informing the membership of the activities of this convention, authorize that all parts of the convention be streamed through the website of the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. 20, Consent of 2/3 of the voting strength of the convention present and voting is necessary for the suspension of the rules of this convention. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, I move that these rules be adopted by the convention at this time.
The chairman of the convention rules made a motion to accept them as read. Is there any changes? Any changes? Any changes? Seeing none, the convention rules will stand as read. Thank you, Chief.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, additionally, Robert's Rules of Order calls for the adoption of the convention agenda. Therefore, I move that the convention is currently displayed on the VFW Convention app, and as from time to time may be adjusted by the Commander-in-Chief, be adopted as the official agenda of the 124th National Convention.
Motion's been made to adopt. Any question? Any question? Any question? It stands.
Commander-in-Chief, that concludes my report.
Thank you. I now call upon Vincent B.J. Lawrence for the report on Committee of National Bylaws, Manual Procedures, and Rituals.
Good afternoon, Comrade Commander, national officers, delegates to this convention. My name is Paul Sperra. I am a delegate to this convention, and I am a proud member of North End Post 144 in Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you very much. The chairman.
Just read it.
Just read it? You don't want me to tell them?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Commander-in-Chief. The Committee on National Bylaws, Manual of Procedure and Ritual met Sunday, July 23rd, 2023. I would like to introduce the chairman of the committee, past Commander-in-Chief B.J. Lawrence. I would also ask that all the members of the committee please stand to be recognized at this time. Committee members, make sure you know where the mics are. Please give these comrades a big hand. You already did that. Comrades, the proposed amendments are in the booklet you received in your registration packet. Please refer to your booklet as I read the proposed amendments the committee recommended for adoption. First, I will read the committee's recommendations for approval. Then I will initiate a motion to adopt those proposed amendments. If a delegate wishes to set aside a proposed amendment for discussion, they will approach one of the microphones, state their name, post number, department, and ask that the amendment be set aside. After set-asides have been identified, we will vote on the motion to adopt the other proposed amendments the committee recommended for adoption. Then we will discuss and vote on the set-asides. After, I will read the proposed amendments the committee rejected. Unless these proposed amendments are adopted through a motion duly seconded and passed with an affirmative majority vote, they will die based on the recommendation of the committee. Commander-in-Chief, the committee recommends for approval the following proposed bylaw amendments: B3, B4, B5.
Slow back.
Yep.
Commander-in-Chief.
Use the microphone. Let them hear you. You know,
It's you.
make a motion.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
He made a motion.
I moved. The chairman moved.
Comrades, the chairman has moved to accept B3, B4, and B5. Are there any set-asides? Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Seeing nobody at the mics? Approved.
Thank you. Now I will read the proposed congressional charter and bylaw amendments the committee rejected, which will die unless a motion is made and duly seconded for adoption. B1, B2, B9 were deemed to be out of order. Are there any motions to adopt these proposed amendments? Any set-asides? We don't need a motion.
Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Seeing nobody at the mics, those motions will die.
Commander-in-Chief, the committee duly voted to refer the following proposed congressional charter and bylaw amendments back to the submitting state for further consideration and clarification. B3, B4, B5. Oh, wait, no. That's, why are they there? That's right. Yeah, but that's what's there. All right. Page 4. Where's page 3?
We did that. You're here.
Right. I will now read the proposed amendments to the Manual of Procedure that the committee recommended for adoption. Commander-in-Chief, these proposed amendments are M5, M6, and M7.
Gotcha. I got it. Commander-in-Chief, I recommend adoption.
The chairman just recommended adoptions of those amendments. Are there any set-asides? Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Motion passed.
Thank you. Now I will read the proposed Manual of Procedure amendments the committee rejected, which will die unless a motion is made for adoption. Commander-in-Chief, the committee rejected the following proposed Manual of Procedure amendments: M1, M2, M3, and was it just M4 that was withdrawn? M4 was withdrawn. These are recommended for rejection.
Any set-asides and they die. No, any set-asides and they die.
I recognize mic number 1.
Commander-Chief Borland, Kurt Watts, Department of Oklahoma, delegate from Post 2027. I stand to ask for a point of privilege that we have some lights turned on so the delegates can see. We're having trouble, our delegates are having trouble seeing what we have. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. So what do I do now? All right, we're going to just take a few minute break just to turn on these lights, and then we'll get right back to this. recommended
went to-
M1, 2, and 3 for rejection.
Those are for rejection, and M4 was withdrawn. You went to Mike 1, so now you want to go to Mike 2. Anybody that's at Mike,
He's gonna make it out about 4 minutes before they can turn the lights on.
and they have to make a motion to adopt.
Okay.
Motion and a
So
second.
this, right, motion and a second.
Okay, it's going to be about 4 minutes before they turn on it. We just had out of the chair recommendations to reject M1, M2, M3, and withdraw M4. Are there any motions to bring them forward? Any motions? Any motion? Any motion? Seeing none, they will die.
We're still waiting on the lights, right? Tell them we're still waiting on the lights. Before we go forward? Yeah.
All right, we're going to wait until the lights come on before we go forward. There we go.
That's where I'm at. That's why I got to break this out. I can't.
All right, comrades, let's get back to order. I now call upon the chairman, Richard L. Eubank, for the report on Committee on Finance and International Organization.
Good afternoon, comrades. Richard Eubank, past Commander-in-Chief, Delegate, Post 10165, Department of California. My Vice Chairman was John Moon, past Commander-in-Chief. Commander-in-Chief, thank you very much. Comrades, I'm pleased to report that the Committee on Finance and Internal Organization met on Sunday afternoon at 1400 hours in room 120 CB and discussed the items before the committee. The proposed resolutions were distributed to each department and posted online. These resolutions are contained in the booklet that you received at registration. Plus, each member of the committee received an additional booklet at our meeting. Commander-in-Chief, the committee recommends rejection resolutions 201, 202. And the committee rejected both 101 and 202 by majority vote. Commander-in-Chief, this concludes my report. Thank you.
Comrades, both 101 and 201 have been recommended for rejection. Are there any motions? I recognize mic number 3.
Commander-in-Chief, David Bozarth, Post 257, Department of Missouri. I make a motion to approve Resolution 201.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? I recognize mic number 3.
Commander-in-Chief, Randy Ignis, Department of Wisconsin, Post 2204. I second the motion.
A motion on the floor and a second to approve 101. Now for discussion. 201, now for discussion.
Commander-in-Chief, the biggest problem that we recognized in the committee the other day yesterday was there's a lack of understanding about submarines and submarine duty among the membership. This lack of understanding included lack of understanding of the SSBN deterrent patrol insignia. The understanding was that the patrol insignia was for all submarines. It's only for one class of the submarines, which is 1/4 of the submarine force, and that the expeditionary medal is awarded in a haphazard manner. Sometimes it's awarded, sometimes it's not for submarine duty. We submariners hear a common comment from our brother and sister veterans and citizens. I could never do that, and how did you do it? Yes, we submariners have doubly volunteered, first to serve in the Navy, then in submarines. Yes, submarine duty is an all-volunteer force. We, the double volunteers, served in a job and service where others wouldn't or couldn't. We volunteered to accomplish missions, patrols, tasks, and service that we will never be able to share the details of due to OPSEC. We, again, double volunteers, served and continue to serve with honor, pride, patriotism, and in silence. We and our duty are the least understood, most frequently forgotten, and least recognized veterans and duty in the United States veteran and military establishment. We desire for you to better understand, better recognize, and better advocate for the rights, recognition, and benefits we earned and deserve. That is why we ask you to support and approve Resolution 201 to establish a National VFW Liaison Office for Submarines.
Thank you, Comrade. I now call upon the chairman to discuss why 201 was rejected.
Commander-in-Chief, when the committee met, there was a lot of discussion, rightfully so, from both sides. What we went by was the finance for eternal organization and the rejection for the create a VFW National Submarine Liaison Office, and I will read that recommendation from National. This resolution would, for the first time in VFW history, create positions in the national office focused exclusively on one type of military service. The VFW should not engage in this business for creating MOS-related fractions within the organization. The good-natured inter-service rivalries are sufficient. This is not where the resources of Veterans of Foreign Wars would be focused. The Veterans of Foreign Wars already provides a voice for submariners, just like MPs, supply clerks, grunts, as well as others. It was with the Veterans of Foreign Wars voice that represented all veterans, particularly all combat veterans. That resulted in the GI Bill, the Choice Act, Blue Water Navy benefits, the elimination of the Widow's Tax, and the Mission Act and the PACT Act. The Veterans of Foreign Wars already served submariners and all the veterans proudly. And so there was really no reason from the committee that there's no special need for justification for such a national level office.
Is there any other discussion on 201? I recognize mic number 1.
Commander-in-Chief, Marty Aguiar, delegate of this post from Department of Nevada, post 10,054. I rise and oppose to this with regards to my 30 years of in the Navy and retiring as a Command Master Chief. Every single sailor is afforded the opportunity to have their records validated and have their awards updated without them being redacted, and any of the members' medals are available on page 4 of their service record. So for eligibility purposes, these members, if they received any of the medals authorizing them for inclusion into the VFW, it's already there without it being redacted in any way, shape, or form. Plus, if we go down this road, what are we doing about the SEALs? What are we doing about the SWCC? What are we doing about Green Beret? What are we doing about all these other combat communities that feel that they're special as well? There's no reason for the submarine community to feel that they're above and beyond everybody else. I rest my case.
I recognize mic number 3.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief Ken Wiseman, National Council member from the Department of Virginia. I spent 13 years in the Navy before I was medically discharged. 2.5 years of that was in the submarine community. They're not being picked on. They are understood. And any conjecture otherwise is not what is needed here. My comrade who also served in the Navy is very correct that you can get your awards validated. Let's talk about awards that submarine sailors earn. Their submarine warfare insignia does not require deployment to be earned. You can complete that pierside. And so we have a scenario where we are, in so many ways, setting aside one group of veterans to be treated differently because of how a few felt from their time in service. Well, I can tell you from my time in the submarine community, Chief, I was never disrespected for it. I am opposed to this, and I ask my comrades to also vote no. I yield back.
I recognize mic number 3.
Chief, just a moment of a bit of clarification. The submarine warfare insignia cannot be awarded by regulations pierside. It requires a minimum of 6 months of sea time, with the commanding officer validating and asserting that the crew member has sufficient sea time to be able to handle and work a submarine at sea. So not pierside, they have to be at sea by regulation.
Seeing no one at the mics, we will now go to the motion and second to adopt 201. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. 201 dies. Any motions for 101? Any motions to adopt 101? Any motions to adopt 101? Seeing none, motion 101 will die. I said 201 first. I said 201 before. Okay, I stand corrected. That was 201. Now, is there any motions for 202 to adopt? 202 to adopt. I recognize mic number 3.
Commander-in-Chief, Randall Tolliver, Post 6660, Department of Missouri. Sir, I recommend approval of Resolution 202, the VFW boycott of Chinese manufactured goods.
Do we have a second? I recognize mic number 3.
Commander-in-Chief, this is Bernadette Kuharchuk, Post 2294, Department of New Jersey. I second the motion to adopt.
We have a motion and a second to adopt 202. Is there any discussion?
Sir, as was discussed this morning by our very motivated speaker, the People's Republic of China is both a military and an economic adversary of the United States. In fact, the 2017 National Defense Strategy issued by the Department of Defense declared China as a strategic competitor and further noted that it is leveraging military, modernization, influence operations, and predatory economics to coerce neighboring countries to reorder the Indo-Pacific region to their advantage. As it continues its economic and military ascendance, it is there to displace the United States as the world's foremost superpower. In addition, the 20 July 2022 United Nations Special Report stated that the People's Republic of China it is reasonable to conclude, using forced labor, also known as slavery, in both its industrial and agricultural manufacturing sectors. I would like to submit, sir, that the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States cease purchasing Chinese manufactured goods in both the store and for organizational support. Sir, that's all I have to say.
Is there any other discussion on 202? I recognize mic number 1.
Commander-in-Chief, Marty Aguirre, Post 10,054, Department of Nevada. Where it is understood that there is a desire for us not to purchase manufactured goods coming out of China, there is absolutely no way we can feasibly do this. With the cost of textiles and everything else that happens around the world, pretty much everything comes through China. through China. Everything that happens at the VFW store, all of our ball caps and everything else, no matter how we outsource them in any way, shape, or form, we still cannot guarantee that any of the textiles that we are receiving come through China. There's no way we can validate this, and there's absolutely no way that we would be able to afford to operate the VFW store without purchasing the textiles that we need in order for us to operate our business. Where it is understood that the gentleman's request makes sense, there's just no feasible way that the VFW can operate right now as it stands without utilizing resources that come from China. Everything we do in this country has got some type of textile or some type of goods that comes from China. Whether it's remanufactured in the United States or not, there is still no way that we can vet, challenge, or disapprove of anything that we are manufacturing today in the United States without some part of it coming through China. Period. That's my point.
Comrade, are you opposing adoption?
I am opposing adoption. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on 202? I recognize mic number 3.
Sir, just a little addition. I'm not proposing that we try as an organization to backtrack all component manufacturing processes. But if it has a made in China label, I submit that we do as an organization have the authority of where we spend our dollars and who we support economically to do so. Thank you, sir.
I recognize mic number 1.
Commander, William H. Hines, Jr., Department of Oklahoma, Moore Post 8706. I understand that everything that we have through textiles comes through China, Vietnam, one of the Southeast Asian countries. I support this in the fact that I believe that we need to take a stand. We need to move our country forward into hopefully opening up textile industries again that would provide jobs and opportunities for our people throughout the United States. If we don't take a stand against China and their imperialistic attentions, I believe that probably we're going to be in a very dire situation before too long. So I would recommend that we take a strong stand and say that we need to stop this, and then hopefully we can look at the course of looking for other solutions that would enable our country to move forward as well as the VFW. Thank you for your attention.
Seeing no one at the mic, so I'm going to give it, as you were, I see someone coming up to mic number 1.
Commander, I know this is my second time to speak, so I'll make it quick. Marty Aguirre, Department of Nevada, VFW Post 10,054. This resolution calls for an immediate stop of purchasing any of the textiles or anything else that we receive overseas. So if we adopt this motion as it stands today, then we are basically asking the VFW to stop purchasing anything that is made overseas. I rest my case.
Seeing no one at mic 1, 2, or 3, I'm going to give the chairman an option to discuss this just a little bit more before we go into the vote.
Comrades, the reason the committee recommended rejection, and I'll read the information we got. This may be contrary to the convention rules and could be ruled out of order. Moreover, this resolution is beyond the scope of our chartered purpose. We should remain focused on veteran-specific issues. From a practical standpoint, it would be virtually impossible to implement the spirit of this resolution. This measure will prevent purchasing made-in-China products, but does nothing to prevent the sale of the products made in other countries using resources from China. China is the world's largest exporter of textiles with an annual revenue of $150 billion. The textiles are sent all over the world where the finished products are shipped. This resolution would be not prevalent, but forthcoming. Finally, the resolution eliminates the freedom of those focused in only purchasing the lowest cost products from the store. Anyone who purchases any product can presently inquire or search as to origins of the product, and they are free to then decide whether to purchase it or not. Commander, that was the reason.
Is there any other discussion on 202? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? We are now going to vote to possibly approve 202. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. It dies. I would ask that all committee chairmen, both B.J. Lawrence and Richard Eubank, to stand by until the end of the convention in case any questions come up. Thank you. I'm going to call upon Dan West to do some admin notes on a couple of the resolutions.
Comrades, as a matter of full transparency as best we possibly can do, at such short notice, I need you to direct your attention to your resolutions book. Resolutions change note. For resolutions 305, 308, and 310 have been moved to the 400 and 600 series. Resolution 305, 308, and 310 from the general 300 series were reassigned during the staff comments meeting on July 6, 23, after the proposed resolutions amendments book went to print. That would be what you currently have in front of you. Resolution 305, free application for federal student aid, was moved to the Veteran Service Resolution 600 series as 642. Resolution 308, recognition of adding 74 sailors on the Vietnam Memorial Wall, and 310, expanding the dates of eligibility for the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, were moved to the National Security and Foreign Affairs 400 series. R308 is now 420, and R310 is now 421. The schedule of resolutions and amendments book still shows resolutions 305, 308, and 310 in the general resolutions, but the website, document repository, and email notifications to members, VMail, and department officers that included all resolutions and amendments, plus copies of resolutions for distribution at the committee meetings, all reflect these changes. Thank you, Commander-in-Chief.
We are now going to report on committees and general resolutions. I call upon past Commander-in-Chief, Chairman Robert E. Wallace.
Good afternoon, everyone. Commander-in-Chief Borland, I'm pleased to report to you that your Convention Committee on General Resolutions convened at 2 p.m. Sunday, July 23rd, 2023. Roll call was taken and preliminary matters were discussed. The committee carefully deliberated each of the resolutions assigned. Commander-in-Chief, I would like to report the committee has recommended for adoption the following resolution as submitted. Number 302, Buddy Poppy distribution on military installations. In addition, the following resolutions are recommended for adoption as amended. 301, create patrol insignia awards for the SS, SSG, SSN, and SSGN submarine crews. amended to be resolved to read as follows. Be it resolved, the veterans of foreign wars of the United States commence efforts to petition the United States Navy, submarine force commands, commanders, and U.S. Navy officials at the Pentagon to design, approve, and authorize patrol insignias for the SS, SSG, SSN, and SSGN crews retroactive to 1947 and holding the same award rank as the SCPI and SSBN deterrent patrol insignias. Number 304, deported veterans, amended as follows. In the eighth whereas, remove the word particularly and add the word honorably after the word served in the first sentence, and add in the be it resolved the words and honorably served after United States Armed Forces. Commander-in-Chief, I hereby move for their adoption.
There's a motion from the committee chairman to adopt those motions. Are there any set-asides? Any set-asides? I recognize mic number 1.
Commander-in-Chief Marty Aguirre, VFW Post 10,054, Pahrump, Nevada, Department of Nevada. I would like to set aside Section 301. I make a motion to set aside Section 301.
There's a motion to set aside 301. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Seeing none, motion dies. One more time, any set-asides for these motions? Seeing none, they are adopted.
Okay, next. Commander-in-Chief, I'll now read those resolution numbers and titles rejected by the committee for the record. Rejected 303, national flag to honor and remember those who died while serving in the armed forces of the United States. 306, offer ranked choice voting in federal elections. 307, supporting eligibility determination for applicants. 309, purpose of our organization. And also please note that resolutions 305, 308, and 310 were reassigned to other committees prior to convening our committee meeting. I wish to express appreciation to the members of the committee for their hard work and dedication, and especially to David Prohaska on the staff for his guidance and professional knowledge. Thank you, Commander-in-Chief, and I sincerely appreciated the appointment.
Are there any motions to adopt the rejections? Any motions to adopt any of the rejections? I recognize mic number 1.
Comrade Commander, William White, Post 3466, South Charleston, West Virginia. I make a amendment that we adopt 303, the national flag to honor and remember those who have died while serving in the armed services.
So that's a motion.
Yes, sir, that's a motion.
We have a motion to adopt 303. Is there a second?
Comrade Commander-in-Chief Ken Wiseman, National Council Member, Department of Virginia. I second the motion.
We have a motion and a proper second to adopt 303. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? I recognize mic number 1.
Comrade Commander, William White, Post 3466, South Charleston, West Virginia. As a member of the armed forces, I am by here no means trying to take away the distinguished reputation of the American flag. This flag does not replace the national ensign American flag. This flag is a flag that is given to family of service members that has their name embroidered on the bottom of it for that family to fly on special occasions throughout the year, i.e. Memorial Day weekend. Just like down in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, they got the Field of Flags for all the service members that have died. You can purchase a flag. There are currently 27 states that have accepted this flag in their state legislature to be flown in their national, I guess you could say, capital or any installation within that state that is a government state. They are Arizona, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Missouri, Minnesota, North Carolina, Nebraska, New Jersey, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Wisconsin, Utah, Virginia, and Vermont, Wyoming, and West Virginia. Now, during the deliberation that we had, somebody brought up the word about where do the proceeds go to when people buy the flags. Well, if anybody has any question about this organization, all they need to do is go to honorandremember.org. The Honor and Remember flag was designed by a man named George Lutz. He is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. He lost his son in Iraq, who was an Army veteran. He designed this flag, and his goal in life was so that he wouldn't forget about his son. That's why this flag was designed. This flag is sponsored by major corporations, and some of these are going to shock you. One of the biggest one is NASCAR. If you ever watch a NASCAR race, you're going to see this flag embroidered on the side of the vehicle. Also, they do the race, the Coca-Cola 600, every year Memorial Day weekend. George Lutz invites and takes a group of individuals who are Gold Star family members. Proceeds from buying this flag go to helping Gold Star family members. He helps pay for their way to come down to go to the racetrack for that weekend. He provides tickets, meals, the accommodations, the whole 9 yards. So when people ask where do the proceeds go to from this, they go back to the community to help the families of the fallen soldiers or sailors or airmen, Coast Guardmen, Marines, etc. Now, I have also, during the deliberations, it was brought up, we don't need another flag to nationally recognize or get behind, okay? And if that is the thought, then why do we also recognize, and I mean no disrespect, the POW MIA flag? It took 17 years, and I said no disrespect. I said no disrespect. It took 17 years to get that flag adopted to be flown next to the American flag. Now hear me out on this. If you're driving down the road, you see the American flag flying on the porch, you see the POW MIA flag flying on the porch, that would lead you to believe that somebody in that house still has somebody that's either POW or MIA. Hear me out. I'll give you plenty of time to argue. And trust me, I have a big back and I will take it. There's a big line in our opening statement that says, don't let any petty jealousies come between us. I take that to heart. So if you're driving down the road and you see the American flag and you see the Honor and Remember flag flying on the front porch, what would that lead you to believe? possibility there's somebody in that household that may have somebody that was killed in action. That's all I'm saying. And that's all I have. Thank you, Comrade and Commander.
I recognize mic number 3.
Ooh, sorry. Commander, Mary Asbell, Department of South Carolina, Post 9539. I sat in on the General Resolutions seminar yesterday, and I think there's really a split decision that we really need to take into account. One, we're comparing it to the POW MIA flag, which to me means two very separate different things. I served multiple tours overseas in Afghanistan, Kuwait, Ali Salim, and I have had multiple members that worked for me not only killed in action, but had to be brought home. There's a difference when we talk about killed in action, those that are coming home with flags on their casket, then we're talking about the million or the thousands of members that are still not accounted for. To take this and accept it as a national representation, I think oversteps a few boundaries. The gentleman that makes them provides them to families. They're available for purchase. If people want to purchase them and provide them to families of members that were killed in action, I fully support that. However, I think we're crossing a very thin line when we start to compare apples and oranges, apples and apples, killed, missing, whatever the case may be. We personally, he said South Carolina, I can tell you for a fact we don't fly it in the state of South Carolina. So I just think that before people decide to vote on this, we really need to look at what it is they're asking for in this resolution. Because it's not just to have the flag available, it's asking us to go to the federal government and fly a flag next to the POW MIA flag that we're taking on responsibility at a national level to recognize. So I think we're crossing a very fine line, and I think it definitely needs to be understood what we're voting on.
I recognize mic number 1.
Thank you, Commander-in-Chief. My name is Leonard Griffin, Post 3848, Department of Nevada, and I am against this, and I do take exception. My dad never came home for career. We haven't seen him yet. And to take another flag to disrespect all these people from Vietnam, Korea, World War II, for this organization would be a disgrace to what we stand for. We support all veterans. We support everyone. But I am definitely against this section. Thank you.
I recognize mic number 3.
Ashley Little, Post 4548, Delegate. I stand in opposition of this. As you all know, we have our flag. I've been to many veteran and active duty funerals, and I take so much pride in some of those are active duty members or Guard or Reserves that were killed in action. And I'm sure they're very proud to be draped with our stars and stripes. And with that, I call for the question.
The call for question has been called. All in favor on the call of question, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. That passes. We now go to the original motion for the adoption of 303. All in favor of the adoption of 303, say aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. Motion 303 dies. Okay. Is there any other motions to adopt any of the rejections that were recommended by the committee? I recognize mic number 3.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, John Keene, Delegate Post 1, Colorado. I move that we adopt 306.
There's a motion on the floor to adopt 306. Is there a second? I recognize mic number 1.
Comrade Commander, Mark Primer from Department of Europe, I second the motion.
There's a motion on the floor, properly second, that we adopt 306. We will now go into discussion. I recognize mic number 1.
Thank you, Comrade Commander. If you read the Be It Resolved, you'll notice that there already is a law on the books called the Uniform and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act. All this resolution does is expand the state's obligation to use a ranked choice voting ballot because of the time delay in getting these ballots back from overseas and the turbulent election seasons we have. Somebody may vote for a candidate who is no longer in the race by the time their ballot is counted. By allowing overseas members and family members to rank their choices, it guarantees that their vote will be counted. Thank you.
Any other discussion on 306? I recognize mic number 3.
Commander-in-Chief, J.R. Hackett, National Council Member, Post 9365, Department of Alaska. I stand in opposition to this, and this is my reasoning behind it. We did this in Alaska, and basically what you do is you give somebody 3 votes when you get 1. If you don't understand how ranked voting works, it's like this. If there's 4 applicants, if you voted for the worst one, then you get your second vote. If you still didn't vote for the first 2, then you get the 3rd vote. I rest.
I will now call upon the chairman to discuss why 306 was rejected.
Commander, the committee felt that it was out of the scope of the VFW to tell people how to figure out the ranked choice. It's a state issue. The VFW's issue is get veterans and get the citizens in our country to vote, but let the states determine how they're going to run their campaigns.
I recognize mic number 3.
Comrade Commander, just to follow up on the 2 statements that were made. First of all, I don't think that's an accurate representation of how ranked choice voting works. If somebody wins on the first ballot, then the ballot is over. The election has been determined. Ranked choice voting is also known as instant runoff voting. So if nobody wins on the first round and you have to go to a runoff election like was recently occurred in Georgia, you already know what that member's second choice is if their candidate was eliminated in the previous round. So you don't automatically get subsequent votes. We just don't have to reach back out to that veteran who's maybe changed duty stations since the last time they voted. We already know what their vote is because of the way the ballot is structured. And to answer the committee's recommendation, this is a federal law that already tells the states that they must provide overseas veterans and their family members with a ballot. So it would just be clarifying and providing additional choice to the requirement that the federal government has already imposed on the state. And like I said in my initial statement, it is a way to ensure that our overseas service members and their family members have their votes counted. And I think that is well within the bounds of the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on 306? Any other discussion on 306? Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will now go to the vote. All in favor of adopting 306, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Nay. Motion fails. One last chance. Any motions for adoptions on the recommendations for rejections? Seeing none, they will all die. Past Commander-in-Chief Bob Wallace, if you can just stand by until the end of this business on Thursday, then I will dismiss you in case we have any other questions that do come up. I will now call upon the Committee for National Security Affairs, Chairman, Past Commander-in-Chief John Stroud.
Commander-in-Chief, John Stroud, Delegate, Post 2313, Department of Nevada. I report that the Convention Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs convened in the Phoenix Convention Center at 2 p.m. on Sunday, July 23rd, 2023. Roll call was taken to ensure only assigned committee members were able to vote. After reading your directions to the committee and discussion how the process would take place, the committee deliberated each of the 19 resolutions assigned to the National Security and Foreign Affairs Committee. The vice chairman of this committee was Past Commander-in-Chief Bill Thine, and the chairman of the subcommittee on POW-MIA was Past Commander-in-Chief Larry Rivers, and I will be presenting all of these resolutions today. I will now proceed by listing the resolution numbers and titles that the committee recommends for approval as written. Resolution number 401, preserve the all-volunteer force. Resolution number 402, eliminate sexual assault and harassment in the military. Resolution number 403, ensure DoD compliance with the TAP law. Resolution 404, keep defense budget relevant. Resolution 405, link military pay increases to private sector increases. Resolution 406, provide full concurrent receipt of military retirement pay and VA disability compensation. Resolution 408, awarding the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal for expeditionary operations in Eastern Europe. Resolution number 411, recognition for Afghan and Iraqi combat translators. Resolution 412, support the Republic of China on Taiwan. Resolution 413, support the Republic of Korea. Resolution 414, support of NATO deterrence and support to Ukraine. Resolution 419, Honduras. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, I request the delegates accept the committee's recommendation to approve these resolutions.
Chairman on these resolutions has just recommended approval. Is there any set-asides? Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Seeing none, resolutions are approved.
Thank you, Comrade Commander-in-Chief. I will now list the resolution numbers and titles that the committee recommends for approval as amended. Resolution 407, preserve the integrity of the TRICARE benefit. Resolution 415, support the State of Israel. Resolution 417, bring back United States Navy recruiting in the Philippines. Commander-in-Chief, I request the delegates accept the committee's recommendations to approve these resolutions as amended.
There's been a motion to approve these resolutions as amended. Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Seeing none, they are approved as amended.
I will now list the resolution numbers and titles that the committee recommends for rejection. 416, support the awarding of the Vietnam Service Medal for those involved in the SS Mayaguez incident. 418, honoring the oaths of U.S. service members. Resolution 420, recognition of adding 74 sailors on the Vietnam Memorial Wall. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, these resolutions are recommended for rejection.
Coming from the committee, these resolutions have been recommended for rejection. Are there any motions to adopt? Any motions to adopt? I recognize mic number 3.
Commander-in-Chief, I'm Jack Farrell out of Post 11575, Phnom Penh, Cambodia, also known as Mayaguez Memorial Post, VFW Post 11575. I would like you to reconsider or make a motion to approve the awarding of the VSM medal to those members that were involved in the Mayaguez incident. At the present time, those members who were killed during the incident are memorialized on the Vietnam War wall in D.C. One of the things that people don't realize is that point over. Whoops, sorry.
Is there a second on resolution number 416? Is there a second? Is there a second? Seeing none, that motion dies. Is there any other motions to adopt any of the recommendations for rejection? Any other motions? Any other motions? Seeing none, they will die.
I thank the committee for its hard work on these resolutions. This is the important work of our organization. And I thank my comrades in this committee for their dedication to serving the needs of our veterans. Commander-in-Chief, this concludes the committee's report on national security and foreign affairs. I will now proceed to the subcommittee on POW-MIA. Commander-in-Chief, I report that the Convention Subcommittee on POW-MIA convened in the Phoenix Convention Center at 2 p.m. on Sunday, July 23, 2023. Roll call was taken to ensure only assigned committee members were able to vote. After reading your directions to the committee and discussion how the process would take place, the committee deliberated each of the 2 resolutions assigned to the POW-MIA subcommittee. I will now proceed by listing the resolution numbers and titles that the committee recommends for approval as written. Resolution 409, Protect POW-MIA Full Accounting Mission Funding. Resolution 410, Call for more unilateral POW-MIA actions by Vietnam. Commander-in-Chief, I request the delegates accept the committee's recommendations to approve these resolutions. I can also report that there were no resolutions rejected by the committee.
Coming from the committee, there's been a recommendation to approve these resolutions. Are there any set-asides? Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Mic number 2.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, Mike Musgrove, Post 2350, Elko, Nevada. I want to make the motion that Resolution 421 be adopted. The committee rejected it. They rejected it, and from what I've heard, it was because it was out of order. There was something at our department convention. It was brought up at our department convention and passed. It had also been passed by a post and the district. So I would like to make the motion that we adopt 421, and I think I'm out of line right now, but.
Point of order, comrade. I've already asked for discussion on those motions. I saw none. The chair's already called it as it died. So we cannot bring that forward.
We never got to 421, sir.
Did we or did we not?
We did. Okay, that resolution does not appear because it was ruled out of order by the committee, and it has not appeared on this because it was pulled out of order by the committee. That's why it was not up for discussion today. We're going to vote on the POWMIA.
Commander-in-Chief, it was moved to 421 from 310, and we were just curious as why it never came up. It was not recommended for rejection. Now John says it was ruled out of order. I don't understand how this means that it's totally dead, or we can't bring it up at this convention, or do we have another avenue to go? Thank you, sir.
For 310 to 421. We ruled it out of order.
Can that be brought forward?
They can resubmit.
Comrade, since this was ruled out of order, we're not penalizing you for not bringing this up, but what we're going to tell you is if you want to bring 421 back, you're going to have to resubmit 421. We're not going to bring it up because it was ruled out of order. Decision. Where were we?
Voting to accept those two resolutions.
Okay. We're still on the motion 409 and 410 to approve. Is there any set-asides? Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Seeing none, motion 409, 410 are approved.
I thank the committee for its hard work on these resolutions. This is the important work of our organization, and I thank my comrades and this committee for their dedication to serving the needs of our veterans. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, this concludes the subcommittee report on POW-MIA resolutions. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, thank you.
Once again, I would like the committee to stand by until close of business on Thursday when the committees are dismissed in case we have any questions. I will now call upon the Committee on Veterans Service Resolutions. Past Commander-in-Chief, Keith Harmon.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief Borland, I report to you that our Convention Committee on Veteran Service Resolutions convened at 2 p.m. on Sunday, July 23rd, 2023. Roll call was taken, preliminary matters were discussed. The committee was divided into 3 subcommittees to carefully deliberate each of the 42 resolutions that they were assigned. The subcommittees were established as follows. Subcommittee 1 on Health, chaired by Ken Dice from Arizona, Vice Chairman Benjamin Dales from Iowa. Staff advisors were James Moss, Assistant Director of Veterans Service and Health Policy from the NVS, and Megan Thomas, Associate Director, National Legislative Service. Subcommittee 2 on Benefits, chaired by Eric Drake from Ohio and Vice Chairman Sean Ransford from Indiana. Staff advisors were Chris Makanowski, Assistant Director, Training and Quality Assurance of NVS, and Christine Keenan, Deputy Director, National Legislative Service. Subcommittee 3, Economic Opportunities and Other, chaired by John Grew from Minnesota and Vice Chairman Laura Clay from Virginia. Staff advisors were Brad Hazel, Assistant Director, Compensation and Pension, NVS, and Patrick Murray, Director, National Legislative Service. Before proceeding to the report, I wish to express my gratitude for Mike Figoli, Director of National Veteran Service, and Pat Murray, Director of National Legislative Service, for the valued technical guidance which they and their staff provided to the committee. I also want to thank Brad Hazel, NVS staff, for who services our committee secretary and coordinated the results of our deliberations. Commander, with your permission, I will begin the committee's report by presenting those resolutions the committee recommended to be approved as written, then proceed to the report of resolutions that were recommended approved as amended, and those resolutions that were recommended for rejection. If for any reason you or your delegates of this convention would like to set aside for further discussion, please so indicate at the microphone. I will now proceed by reading the resolution numbers and titles that the committee recommended for approval as written. Resolution 601, Adequate Department of Veterans Affairs Budget. 602, VA Pharmaceutical Co-Payments. 603, VA Medicare and TRICARE reimbursements. 604, Nursing Home Eligibility. 605, Traumatic Brain Injury Health Care. 606, PTSD and Mental Health Care. 608, Expand VA Caregiver Benefits. 609, Sustainable Community Care Options for Veterans. 610, Foreign Medical Care Program. 611, Electronic Health Records Management. 612, Extend Service Connection Presumption to blast survivors. 613, Tinnitus and Hearing Loss Presumptive. 615, Toxic Exposure. 617, VA Life Insurance. 618, Domiciliary Programs and Temporary Total Ratings. 620, AMA Remands. 621, VSO Involvement with VA SRD. 622, Review of VA Decisions. 623, Improved Education and Benefits for Survivors. 624, Veterans Housing and Food Security Programs. 625, Ensure Veterans Success in Education. 626, Vocational Readiness and Employment Training Programs. 627, Veterans Support Employment Training Programs. 628, Veterans Entrepreneurship. 629, Underserved Veterans. 636, Expand Veterans Treatment Courts. 637, Continue Fighting to End Veterans Homelessness. 638, Supporting Women Veterans. 639, Military Sexual Trauma. 640, Protect the Home of Surviving Spouses. And 642, Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Comrade Commander, I move for the committee's recommendation to approve those resolutions.
Recommendations out of the committee to approve the following resolutions. Is there any set-asides? I recognize mic number 3.
Comrade Commander Todd Schroeder, Post 3115, Department of Kansas, respectfully request to set aside Resolution 629 and 638.
Is there any other set-asides? Any other set-asides? Seeing none, all other resolutions are approved. We will now go to the set-asides. Any discussion? One at a time, comrade.
Comrade Commander, specifically requested those two be set aside because they are addressing essentially the same thing. 638 is in support of women veterans, where 629 is addressing underserved veterans. In the whereas under 629, they specifically delineate women, LGBTQ+, race, ethnicity. So we've got redundancy in these two resolutions. I also want to point out the fact that we just spent deliberation over 201 where we didn't want to create dissension or fractions amongst MOSs in the military or within our ranks in this organization. Why are we being so specific about who is considered an underserved veteran? Every single one of us has served in the military. Every single one of us is willing to die for one another. We've proved that, and we continue to prove that by being VFW members. I believe that both of these are necessary, but they're not necessary as two separate resolutions. And furthermore, I don't think it's necessary for us to continue to highlight specific categories of social justice issues. We're veterans. We take care of veterans, regardless of whether you served as a man and you're living in your civilian life as a woman. It doesn't matter. You served this country, and we're going to take care of you. I don't know how to move with this, but I think if for any reason we continue to operate this, we're opening ourselves up for contradictions and conflict. And I wanted to bring that up because we're an organization that moves in straight lines, and this provides an opportunity for zigzag, and we need to stop. We need to do a better job of avoiding these situations. I rest.
I recognize mic number 1.
Commander-in-Chief Kelly Silva, Post 1677, Department of Arizona. I oppose what my comrade stated. As a female veteran, I don't get the care. We are one of the least amount of veterans that actually apply for our veterans benefits out there. Women do not tend to go to a male doctor because they don't feel comfortable. To push the VA to be able to allow women to choose their doctor and what sex their doctor is will allow women to be able to apply for their benefits and get the care that they need. So I do oppose what my comrade stated.
I recognize mic number 3.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief Ken Wiseman, National Council member from the Department of Virginia. I spent 3.5 years as an accredited service officer, and everything that my comrade just said about women applying for benefits is 1,000% true, especially with issues related to sexual assault. And I can tell you myself, as a gay veteran, I get care at VA, and it is good care. But not a lot of LGBTQ veterans know what the options are, and not a lot of them know that they can get help filing the paperwork. This isn't about some miracle new solution. This is about better outreach and better engagement. And I'll tell you now, this would be the same story, and we would need to pass a resolution if it had to do with, heart attack medication or anything else. Sometimes people just need to know that the options are there, and that's what this resolution does. So I hope my comrades will vote yes, and I yield back.
I recognize mic number 1.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief Wilma James Jackson Jr., Post 3766, Department of Louisiana. Both of those resolutions are completely different. And very shortly, reflecting on my experience as Department Service Officer, when I was in the field, it was 6 months before I saw my first female veteran. And within 2 minutes, I knew I was out of my depth because she wasn't comfortable. When I saw my other veterans that were identified by the other categories on that list, I knew I was out of my depth because they weren't comfortable. And so there is a need for everything that we're resolving here. When we're the ones that aren't different, of course everything is all right and we don't need any change. But the world is different for other people. And if it wasn't, they wouldn't ask for things to be different. Thank you.
I recognize mic number 1.
Sorry. Comrade Commander Ernest Lawrence, Post 5408, Georgia Department. So we're all green. Some are blue, okay? But if we start holding out for all of these little things, every one of us has a different story. Every one of us has a different story. Some of us may be scared to go in front of somebody. Some of us may be intimidated to go in front of somebody else. We can't adjust the VFW to fit for every little thing because we fit for everyone. We don't just fit for one particular thing. And if we keep separating this the way we're doing, you're going to have a whole book that's 10,000 pages wide of who we're supporting. We support one group, and that's veterans. That's me.
I recognize mic number 3.
Comrade Commander Christine Tron, Department of Massachusetts, Post 545. I'm in favor of amendment of 638, supporting women veterans. Right now, in room 230, how to engage women veterans. We need to show we support women veterans by supporting this amendment. Thank you, Comrade Commander.
All right, I'm going to take one more. Mic number 1.
Commander-in-Chief Nicole Horseman, Department of Kentucky, Post 680. I'm going to say something that was actually discussed earlier this afternoon in relation to some of my comrades, what they have said. Yes, we are all green. We are all veterans. Our future Junior Vice Commander-in-Chief stated yesterday right here at this convention, she is a veteran first. However, I have very specific medical needs that my male counterparts do not have. I need things. When I had my babies, I needed care that none of my male comrades are going to need. We can also break that down to wars. Vietnam veterans need medical care for very specific exposures that me as an Iraq veteran does not need. So we have to support pushing the VA for some of these very specific actions because not everyone's care and treatment is identical. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take these one at a time. Resolution 629 was set aside, unserved veterans. It was recommended by the committee for approval. All in favor for approval of 629, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. That resolution passed. Now we're going to go to the set aside 638, supporting women veterans. It was recommended by the committee for approval. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it.
I will now read the resolution numbers and titles that the committee recommends approval as amended. Resolution 607, VA Healthcare for Women Veterans. 614, VA Claims Workload. 616, Digital Claims Process. 619, Protecting VA Accreditation. 632, Miss Lear Cancer Study. Comrade Commander, I move for the committee's recommendation to approve these resolutions as amended.
From the committee, a recommendation for approval as amended. Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Any set-asides? Seeing none, those resolutions are approved.
Thank you, Commander-in-Chief. I will now read the resolution numbers and titles of the committee's recommendations to reject. Resolution 630, Fort McClellan. This resolution is recommended to be rejected in favor of the Commander-in-Chief's Resolution 615, which encompasses all toxic exposure. 631, Improving VA Medical Health Care in favor of Resolution 606. Resolution 634, Tinnitus and Hearing Loss Presumptive Service Connection. We recommend rejection in favor of Resolution 613. 635, increased veterans burial benefits, and Resolution 641, Green Star Service Flag. Comrade Commander, I recommend that we do not adopt these resolutions based on the committee's recommendation.
From the committee, these resolutions were recommended for rejection. Are there any motions for adoption? Any motions for adoption? Any motions for adoption? Seeing none, they will die.
Thank you, Commander-in-Chief. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Once again, I would ask the chairman to stand by until close of business Thursday in case there was any questions for the rest of this convention. I want to make a quick announcement before we go to closing ceremonies or recess, that is, until tomorrow, and that is all my commanders that recruited over 100 members this year, I promised them and their guest or spouse a steak dinner. I have made reservations at Wren and Wolf, W-R-E-N and Wolf restaurant, which is just down the road from the Hyatt. That reservation's for 6:45 p.m. If you're not in the room, but we do have some commanders in this room, please pass that on to the commanders who have recruited 100 plus, because I am going to live up to that personal bet that I gave them, so they will get steak dinners tonight. Ken Wiseman, did you have something to say before I close?
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, since you're asking, it's a point of order. 633, we don't know that one was called out for adoption or rejection. Can I get a status of that, sir?
I call upon the chairman to answer that question, please, on Resolution 633. It was approved as written.
Thank you,
comrade.
sir. I yield back.
You're welcome. Sergeant at Arms, you will now please perform closing ceremonies for today's session.
Yes, sir, Comrade Commander-in-Chief, sir. Comrade Chaplain Deborah Halter, would you lead us in our closing prayer? Uncover, parade, rest.
As we close for the day, guide us, God, to think about the things we've learned today and to explore more on the things we need to do tomorrow. Help us to process all the information that we have been presented with and use it effectively to assist our fellow veterans. May our evening be full of rekindling old friendships and making new friends and great contacts. Help us to prepare for the rest of this week as the slate is full of important items to work on that need our focus, as the finer details will make the VFW more successful for the care of our comrades. May the delegates still arriving arrive safe. May we all return tomorrow morning ready to work together for the greater good of our comrades. Amen.
Amen. Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States, attention, hut, cover. Comrades honoring the flag of our nation, please join me in a final salute to the colors. Present, halt. Order, halt. Comrade Commander-in-Chief, this session has been properly adjourned.
Thank you, Sergeant Barnes. We are now adjourned until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.